If you had one shot or one opportunity to seize everything you ever wanted in one moment, would you capture it or just let it slip? Yo. His palms are sweaty, knees weak, arms are heavy. There's vomit on his sweater already. Mom's spaghetti, he's nervous, but on the surface he looks calm and ready to drop bombs. But he keeps on forgetting what he wrote down. The whole crowd goes so loud, he opens his mouth, but the words won't come out. He's choking how? Everybody's choking now. The clock's run out, time's up, over, loud. Snap back to reality. Oh, there goes gravity. Oh, there goes rabbit. He choke. He's so mad, but he won't give up. Daddies, he know he won't have it. He knows his whole back to these ropes. It don't matter, he's dope. He knows that, but he's broke. He's so stacked that he knows when he goes back to this mobile home, that's when it's back to the lab again, yo. This old rhapsody better go back to this moment and hope it don't pass him.
Listen, we can talk about the flag, but let's talk about... Wait.
And a very good morning to everybody here. Welcome to Trending in the AM, right here on DSM Media. We're live, Facebook, Twitter, Twitch, YouTube. As always, you know the drill. Retweet, share, comment, thumbs up, all that stuff. But we got a really serious show, unfortunately. We could be talking Phillies. We could be talking their collapse last night. We could be talking more Eagles. We could be talking all the different Sixers rumors that are floating around. But unfortunately, we are, as the voice of the people, if you want to call it that, we've got to spend some time today talking about the tragedy that happened in Uvalde, Texas. My heart aches for everybody in that community, for the families that have lost. We are now up to 19 kids and 2 adults that have tragically died in that mass shooting down there in Texas. Uvalde, just west of San Antonio, just about 70 miles outside of San Antonio there. I posed the question on the thumbnail that advertises the show. Do our athletes and celebrities need to do more to help enact change? We're going to get into that topic. We're just going to get into a lot of serious stuff. You know, we're not the only morning show, but we're the only morning show that's going to cover this serious topic. So if you want to get involved in this conversation, make sure you head over to the Facebook or YouTube page at DSM Media. It's the easiest place to get involved. Then I can put your questions, your comments, your thoughts right up on the screen. We can address them live. I am your host, Phil Stifel, at Bearded Knowledge on Twitter. My main man, Jason Voorhees, right here is next to me, at Mustang3651. Good morning, Jason. Unfortunately, we can't talk what you want to talk about today. We've got to talk about these tragedies that just keep happening in our society and our culture over and over again. I guess, how are you doing this morning, Jason?
I mean...
Exactly. Mark checking in saying, didn't we just do a show on this last week? And it's true, because we had the supermarket shooting just last week.
I can't say I'm doing well. I mean, I had to actually turn off social media last night just because I couldn't, just seeing and rehashing the fact that more kids are dead. And let's face it, kids are not any more important than adult. It's the fact of the matter that kids shouldn't, nobody should die. And there's too many people dying at the hands of gun violence. And it's, whether it's mass shootings or, inner city shootings or, over the state line shootings, it doesn't matter. The fact of the matter, it's the same thing. It's shootings with guns. And a lot of times it's assault rifles. And it hurts my heart that, once again, like Mark just said, we just talked about this last week, and Steve Kerr yesterday had an unbelievable, he obviously was up there to do his press conference for the game, but he basically said, we're not talking basketball. And he kind of went on a rant. And I know you have that ready to go. And I think we should lead with that because honestly, right. I think what he says it perfectly about why we're continuing to have this issue.
Yeah. All right. Let me cue this up real quick. Hopefully everybody can hear this at home. If you have not seen this, It's about 2.5 minutes long. And basically Steve Kerr voicing the same frustrations that we've, just
I'm not
given
going to
out.
talk about basketball. Nothing's happened with our team in the last 6 hours. We're going to start the same way tonight. Any basketball questions don't matter. Since we left shoot around, 14 children were killed 400 miles from here, and a teacher. And in the last 10 days, we've had elderly black people killed in a supermarket in Buffalo. We've had Asian churchgoers killed in Southern California. And now we have children murdered at school. When are we going to do something? I'm tired. I'm so tired of getting up here and offering condolences to the devastated families that are out there. I'm so tired of I'm sorry. I'm tired of the moments of silence. Enough. There's 50 senators right now who refuse to vote on H.R. 8, which is a background check rule that the House passed a couple of years ago. It's been sitting there for 2 years. And there's a reason they won't vote on it, to hold on to power. So I ask you, Mitch McConnell, I ask all of you senators who refuse to do anything about the violence and school shootings and supermarket shootings, I ask you, are you going to put your own desire for power ahead of the lives of our children and our elderly and our churchgoers? Because that's what it looks like. It's what we do every week. So I'm fed up. I've had enough. We're going to play the game tonight, but I want every person here, every person listening to this to think about your own child or grandchild or mother or father or sister, brother. How would you feel if this happened to you today? We can't get numb to this. We can't sit here and just read about it and go, well, let's have a moment of silence. Yeah, go Dubs, Come on, Mavs, let's go. That's what we're going to do. We're going to go play a basketball game. And 50 senators in Washington are going to hold us hostage. Do you realize that 90% of Americans, regardless of political party, want background check, universal background check? 90% of us, we are being held hostage by 50 senators in Washington who refuse to even put it to a vote, despite what we, the American people, want. They won't vote on it because they want to hold on to their own power. It's pathetic. I've had enough.
All right, that was Steve Kerr there yesterday before the Warriors, Mavs game, and sorry about that. I forgot to hit mute on the mics there, so we had a little bit of echo for the first few moments of it. Thanks for checking in there, Joe, to let us know. And I didn't even from Mark here. Steve Kerr's dad was killed by a terrorist with guns. He's the perfect guy to talk on this subject. I did not know that, but what that says, he's the perfect guy to talk on it. And there's a lot to digest about what Steve Kerr said there. But you know what? I don't know how to say this the right way, but I want our athletes, our celebrities, our coaches, not just athletes either, celebrities too. They have the influence. People listen. When Steve Kerr talks, people are listening. If even bigger names than Steve Kerr, stood up and demanded change, used their influence and their reach to convince people to do the right thing, would that be enough? Is LeBron James, Kim Kardashian, anybody that's a major celebrity that has a huge, massive following, is it up to them to rally their people to stand up to the politicians to help enact this change? Because they have the influence over people. If The Rock and Kim Kardashian and LeBron James, 200 million followers between the three of them, stand up and tell their people that follow them and do whatever they say that, is the right. Is it time for our celebrities and our athletes to help enact this change?
I mean, I think it's
a tough question, I know, because it's not their job, but they've got the power, don't they?
Well, they do, Phil. But and maybe I'm an outlier on this, but I believe each and every one of us has a certain power when it comes to enacting change. And there's a lot of ways we can do that. Now, I'll use my personal example. So I've talked about it numerous times. I own multiple guns. I'm an avid hunter. I hunt. That's something I enjoy. It's a pastime that I've enjoyed. And I got to be honest with you, Phil. I've been thinking more and more about this, and every time these things come up, and I'm not going to lie to you, I would be willing to turn in my guns today if I knew it was going to save lives. And I think everyone has to have that kind of attitude, because what it comes down to and what it boils down to is these people that argue and keep arguing about the fact that, well, you can't ban guns, it's against the Constitution. They're more worried about the constitutional right for them, the individual, to own a gun than they are to stop these killings. And that's a problem. Like, I'm not selfish, Phil. I mean, and listen, we're all selfish at times. I mean, we're all guilty of it. But I can't sit back and continue to see this without feeling terrible and feeling like, what does me owning a gun, why would that take priority over stopping these things? Yeah. And I think if more people had the attitude like I'm putting out there and came together and started saying, you know what, that's true, maybe there would be some change. And I really believe Steve Kerr nailed it. It doesn't matter if athletes stand up. I mean, I saw LeBron James tweeting out. LeBron James is one of the biggest names out there. I saw him tweeting out. People can talk all they want, but
it's the action too.
He nailed it. Steve nailed it. It's 50 senators holding up a bill that's actually one step in change.
Yeah, so let's talk about it. So I don't know a lot about that bill, but what I understand is all that bill that he was talking about in that presser there is the bill to refine background checks. Is that correct? The amount of what happens with the background checks. And again, I'm not a gun owner, so I don't know all the details. I'm not pro or anti-gun, realistically speaking. Like, I've never had to have an opinion on it. But it's basically the background check is what the bill is that they're talking about, right?
Yeah, so it's basically a bill that would make background checks federal. There's already background checks on the state level in every state. But it would make a federal background check law, and it would refine the laws and make them tougher. And as he said, 90% of Americans want that and think we need that. Dude,
I mean, when I was reading about it, it's to avoid, because one of the previous shootings that happened, I don't remember which one, the guy had gotten the guns before the background check was completed. He started processing the paperwork. They sold the guy the guns. He went on dead, a mass shooting, and then his background check came through. So I think this is to kind of eliminate some of those maybe flaws. Is that what I'm thinking about it?
I think the bigger point that he's trying to make is that if we can't even do that, then how are we ever going to stop anything of this? If we can't pass a simple bill that would he's not, listen, no one's saying that gun laws and background checks are going to stop killings. They're not. Like, honestly, if you realistically want to change, you have to go a lot more aggressive. And you know what? Australia, they did it. And, you know, a lot of people want to say, oh, well, Australia's Australia. We're Americans. We're better. Well, when's the last mass shooting in Australia? They banned guns. I mean, I'll ask you that. They haven't had one. I mean, this is the point. Like, if we wanted to stop, then we got to be aggressive. We got to make more. But like Steve said,
you're never gonna get guns banned in the United States of America. But you know, is it too hard to ask for ban on assault rifles, ban on automatic weapons? You know, if you're a hunter and you want to own a rifle to hunt deer or whatever, okay. If you want to own a handgun to protect yourself, okay, maybe. But there's no reason an 18-year-old kid has multiple assault rifles to go into a school and shoot it up. There just isn't. And, I'm not saying 18-year-olds shouldn't be allowed to buy guns because obviously 18-year-olds can go into the army and whatever. But come on, I'm sure this 18-year, if a proper background check was done, I'm sure this 18-year-old kid would not have been sold. Which I think I read he bought his rifles on his 18th birthday. So I'm guaranteeing that if a proper background check was done, that this kid would not have passed a proper background check to get multiple assault rifles. What does an 18-year-old kid need multiple assault rifles for on his 18th birthday?
I mean, I think you just nailed it. That's where I would start. I think at least a ban on assault rifles is absolutely necessary and a good start. I'm not saying it's the end all, but I think it's not only that. I also believe our legal system is so messed up and flawed. I mean, our legal system has more flaws than the Phillies farm system. Like, it's absolutely in disarray. I think if you start making penalties for these types of things, and I'm not just talking about a mass shooting. Obviously, we already have a penalty for that. I'm talking about make laws stricter for guns. If you ban assault rifles, say you're caught with an assault rifle, 50 years in jail. Make the penalties larger. And I'm not saying that would stop it, but when you do increase penalties, it might make people think twice about doing what they're doing. I mean, think about all the people that get stopped with guns illegally, like carrying a gun and they don't have a permit. Dude, the way the law is now, they're out on bail and they still have the gun. Like make the laws stricter. So there's so many things that you could do on so many levels to fix it, but it's going to take change at the top. And that's what Steve's saying. Like, there's 50 senators holding up this bill because they don't want to give up power. And what that says is they're just like, turning a blind eye because they don't want to do anything about it. And that's not right. That's not acceptable.
And I'm not trying to change, whatever, but we're talking about a school shooting here. 4th grade kids. They're all like 10 and 11, 9 years old. I'm sure you saw the post by Giovanni, on social media yesterday where, he's tired of it. If anybody doesn't know who Gio is, he's a young podcaster, great kid, great story, and he's got some disabilities and he doesn't move well. And, they do active shooter, drills in school, just like we used to do fire drills. They have to have active shooting drills, and it scares them. I mean, I don't have kids, but I've got a lot of nieces and nephews, and I'm pretty damn positive that this would scare them when they have to do them in their school, these drills. I know we were having a conversation with the one young one the other day about not talking to strangers if somebody comes to you, and that scared her about what could happen. Imagine what if us having a conversation with her about strangers, like, pulling over to say hello to her, on the side of a road would scare her. Imagine what an active shooting drill is going to do. You would think these senators and these lawmakers and these politicians would put their pride aside. I'm guaranteeing most of them have kids. Some of them, because there's so many damn politicians that are 80 years old still in office, probably have grandkids and great-grandkids. You would think they would want to do the right thing to at least enact some change, some progress, so that we maybe not do away with them all, but at least eliminate them. I mean, we've had 3 mass shootings in the last 3 weeks. There was a stat like in Coatesville. It's a school about 20 minutes north of my pizza shop. There was a stabbing at the high school. One kid stabbed another kid. The violence has got to stop. It's depressing. It's sad. But you would think these lawmakers, we're not talking about a new tax. We're not talking about legalizing marijuana or not, or legalizing gambling. We're talking about guns in our schools right now. And you would think that their pride would be set aside when each and every one of these people have their own kids and families, and, what you would think that they would want to protect them. And it breaks my heart that they don't care. That school safety, human being safety going into a food store or a movie theater is not more important than their pride and their political agenda. And it breaks my heart. It makes me want to leave the country. Honestly, it's embarrassing. It really is.
Yeah, I mean, there's there's other issues here too that I think kind of get lost when these things happen. And I hear some people bring it up and talk about it, but not enough.
Mhm.
And it's the other factor that goes along with this. So you have the guns, but you also have the mental illness piece. And it just shows you how we're still not far enough as far as mental awareness goes. Like, you see all the people that say mental health matters and they post it, but it's like, what are you doing about it? Like, what are these parents doing? Like, it makes you wonder. Like, this kid, I mean, they said he was bullied and, whatever. Like, apparently I don't know if he was gay. I didn't read all about it, but he was getting made fun of and bullied, like right up to the point where he did this. Like I said, not an excuse, but it shows you how all these things come together, and you have that side of it, and then you have the gun. So the mental health part of it is just as culpable as the gun. Like, and the lack of people being aware of that and helping that kid. Where is that? And we don't talk about that part enough either.
It's interesting because you bring that up, and look, I talk about it a little bit. I should talk about it more, and maybe help bring light to the bullying aspect of things in life. Look, I was massively bullied growing up, always. I joke about it now, whatever, but I mean, I was pretty damn. I mean, it was bad, okay, and to the point where when I was a kid, I would cry myself to sleep, didn't want to go to school, whatever, and it didn't go on for like 6 months. It went on for a very long time till I learned to stand up for myself. But you would think, like, I'm 41 years old. I probably started getting bullied in first or second grade, third grade, something like that. So we're talking late 80s. They didn't know how to handle it then. It was brushed off, pushed off. Now, luckily enough, I had strong enough family that helped me get through it. But, nowadays you would think 30 years later that we would have handled addressing these kind of situations. Luckily for me, I didn't have a mental break, but I could see how it could drive you insane. And I'm not trying to make an excuse for the kid if he was really bullied really that bad to have that kind of a mental break. That's on the people in his life, the teachers, the administrators, anybody that could have potentially seen it, the passing police, anybody, that they did not address this situation sooner. And you would think, not only have we had no gun reform for the last 30, 40 years, we've had no growth in addressing. You want to talk about it as, the psychological aspect of it. We haven't grown in addressing these situations at all. I mean, I remember going to one of my teachers, I think it was in the 6th or 7th grade, and be like, look, I don't know what to do here. I can't take this anymore. And they said, well, I don't know what to do either. Go talk to your parents about it. And that was how my teacher addressed the fact that I was, at one of the lowest points of my life.
I mean, and it really hits home because, like you said, the problem is it's that those aspects are still stigmatized. Like, mental health is still stigmatized. Whether we like it or not, and whether we want to admit it or not, it is. And people that struggle with mental health, they need more people that are like them. People like me, people like you, like anybody that has that kind of issue, to tell their story. Because honestly, telling stories actually helps. People listen when you have a story. It's actually a psychological thing in your brain. Like, people want to hear stories, and more people need to come out and be willing and open to tell their story, because that could actually help somebody. And listen, I'm not, like I said, just so the record, we're not making an excuse for this kid. Listen,
No, not at all.
He did what he did. All that I am bringing up is that
underlying issues that
gun issues are at hand, but there's also a mental health issue that kind of gets brushed under the carpet. And it's true, that a lot of these, things. Now, we could speak to that as the fact that maybe that's where they need to spend more time in these gun reforms, where you actually have to take a mental health test to buy a gun.
Exactly.
I mean, I think that's absolutely a way that you could. I'm not saying
that really hurt your rights? Like people say, the more gun laws you put out there, whether it's whatever, is doing proper checks really taking away your rights?
And I don't care if it's taking away some.
But what
If
I don't
somebody
care,
is psychotic,
I don't understand it. I don't understand why doing a test or having some form of stricter background check is taking away the other 10 billion people's rights.
because
It doesn't make sense to me.
Because Phil, it's selfishness. People are more focused on the actual right than they are about doing the right thing.
Well,
That's what it brings down to.
Guns in the streets and let everybody go grab as many guns as they want. Let's just all shoot it up, and whoever comes out on top is. I mean, because it's just asinine. It really is. It's really asinine.
It's sad too, because I see it so much everything becomes political. You know what I mean? It's like no matter what the issue is, whether it's guns, whether it's the cops, obviously we need reform there. Like, it doesn't matter what the issue is, it always becomes a political issue. And it's like left versus right, instead of like, let's stand together and fix a freaking problem. I don't give a shit if you're Republican or Democrat. If you, in your heart, are not upset about the fact that 15 kids are dead, then something's wrong. Like, come on.
Well, let's swing it back around here.
I'm freaking out, but it's.
Well, let's bring it back to the Steve Kerr thing. LeBron James, whoever you want to say, The Rock, Dwayne Johnson. You say these guys, they send out a tweet and whatnot. But maybe if people like Steve Kerr, or more people were like Steve Kerr and gave more detailed, discussions on it. Maybe if these guys actually go and we always see protests for every other thing, start some can't we expect? Hell, if you pick the three biggest, celebrities and athletes with the most following, and they band together and they go to Congress with 1 million of their followers, and they hold up the steps of Congress that they want change, and these guys these celebrities, male and female, have such influence over their followers. If I have 10 million followers and you all love me so much, I'm going to tell all 10 million of you, do not vote for this person because he will not enact change. This person will. You know what? They have the influence to convince their followers to do that. So do some of these celebrities, I'm not saying do they owe it to us, because they don't owe it to us, but, use your reach for something good. Use your influence for something good. Stand up. You think if I'm just using The Rock because I don't know, his name just popped into my head this morning. I mean, he's one of the most famous people, not just in this country, in the world. And there's always the jokes that he should run for president and stuff like that. That's the kind of influence as a celebrity he has, that he could legitly run and win the presidency with no political background whatsoever. If he's got that much social influence, does he owe it to us, or does he owe it to himself to use an influence, kind of not just tweet it out or Instagram post it out, but to actually go and make a physical action that helps try to create change? I mean, I don't want to put the pressure on the celebrities, but if the politicians aren't going to do it when me and you, the average Joe Schmo, asks for change, maybe those with millions and millions and millions of supporters go and ask for it. Maybe something will happen.
I mean, I totally agree with you. I don't think they owe it to us. I think they owe it to themselves. Like, you have to look within yourself. Like, let's face it, anybody that has ever come along in history, in the history of the world, that's made a difference, whether, let's face it, some of them have been popular people or important people, but there's been other smaller people like you and I that have just done something random and it's blown up and become a difference maker. Whenever something like that happens, it's somebody stepping out of themselves and kind of taking a step forward and maybe doing something radical. You're right. Like, I think this is the perfect opportunity. Like, we've had protests for everything else that you can under the
And
sun.
you know what? And
We
you
have
know what?
we have protests, and we have stuff for like autism. We have something for everything. Well, how about having that for guns? Like, we all are upset and we talk about it. But you're right. Like, it just seems like there's nothing being done on a level
No
where
next
it can make
step.
change.
Look, with the athletes, I bring it up because, I don't want to make this about that conversation, but when the Black Lives Matter movement began and the excessive shootings of, people started happening, athletes stood up together. They didn't just make tweets. They started going. There were, I forget who, one or two NBA players took time off from their teams to go in the communities and work, took time off to go be part of these peaceful protests, to help go to the politicians to enact change. Steve Kerr hit it on, like, we're going to go out and play a game and we're going to go, yay, go Dubs, and yay, go Mavs. That's not solving the problem. And I'm not saying the sports world needs to shut down, but go use your influence. Like I said, I forget which NBA players did it, but several players did stop playing for a brief period of time to go out and help and try to enact change. Now, I'm not trying to say the Black Lives Matters movement is over and everything's hunky-dory, but there has been, some minor maybe movement. I don't know. It seems like it. But these mass shootings, no one's doing anything about it. So use your influence. LeBron James, sorry. You didn't even make the playoffs. You're sitting around. I'm not saying you don't have anything to do right now, but you got kids. Guarantee if one of those kids showed up at his kid's private school, he'd be up. Use your influence to try to help enact some change so this doesn't happen. I mean, you ain't doing anything else right now, LeBron. Go make a difference. Sorry. I always, when it's a sensitive, I always got to throw jokes in because it's the only way I keep myself from going crazy.
Well,
That little sarcasm keeps me, from smashing my head up against this microphone right now.
I understand. Money makes the world go around. So there's not many more powerful entities when it comes to money than sports leagues. I mean, let's face it. Look, NFL, billion, trillion-dollar industry. Baseball, same thing. Football. If all of these athletes came together and did some kind of walkout, I'm not saying like a long-term thing, but even like a little thing, wouldn't it at least get people talking about it? See, that's what I think is missing here.
Man, I do. You got the NBA and the WNBA and Major League Baseball and hockey right now, right? They're the sports they're playing, and the union. Everybody just stages a day of walkout.
Exactly. And I'm not saying like it had to be a large scale. It could just be a one-day thing. But anything is better than nothing. And I think at this point, we need to get more people like cued in on this and to the point where it's like, I'm not saying life needs to stop, but when these issues happen and they continue to happen and nothing's done, the same thing's going to repeat itself. Yeah, we're talking about this today, right? Mm-hmm. 2 weeks from now, we're not going to still be talking about this. We're going to be moved on. We'll be talking about the Phillies and Giants and another school shootings. Something else is going to happen. Yeah. And it's going to happen 2 weeks from now. And what are we going to say then? We need change. We need change. It's like it never comes. We talk about it every single time. We've been talking about this since Columbine. I mean, that's going way back, right? That was like the first major one, right? That we remember anyway, at least in my lifetime. Yep. And it's just gotten progressively worse and worse and worse. And it's not schools now. I mean, we saw it last week in the grocery store. We saw that Asian church that got shot up. I mean, it's happening everywhere. I mean, if you really want to be realistic about it, there's more shootings in inner cities than these mass shootings, and that's just as bad. I mean, a kid getting shot in the streets of Philly is just as bad to me as a kid being shot in a school. But we don't get the same push for that. It's like almost to the point where it's like we've become numb because it's just something that happens. But it's not okay. And like I said,
what's not okay is that this bill
I'm
this
willing
bill has been sitting there for years.
I'm willing to turn in my guns. I'm putting it out there. I'd like other people like myself that are gun owners, responsible gun owners, to do the same thing and have the same attitude. And maybe we could start I don't know. I don't know. I don't know what's going to fix it, but I'm at the point.
You got to start somewhere, and little baby steps, like Steve Kerr. Coming back to the Steve Kerr thing, his presser. It's a bill just to make changes to the background check process. The House of so don't say it's all Republicans and Democrats, because the House has already passed it, and there's Republicans and Democrats in the House, so it's been passed through the first stage. It's just the fact that 50 senators don't want to vote on it. So literally, how many people are in this country? 60 million people, 400 million people in the United States, approximately 50 people. 50 are holding up one bill that isn't even going to change anything other than some minor little things. But that's progress. That's like a little baby step of progress. 50 people are holding up 350, 400 million people from making progress. And I don't want to make this a voting and a political show, because it's more about the tragedy that happened. But this comes down to voting and what we do as Americans and the people we put in power. We vote for these people. How come there's still senators and congressmen and women that are in their 80s still making the decisions of this country? It's time for change. Look, I know it's, again, I'm making a sarcastic joke just to lighten the mood. It's time for The Rock to be the president. Someone different, someone that might, not be so, he might be a little bit down the middle and not just go one way or the other. I don't know. Change is needed, and it starts with voting too. And I think that's part of the problem right here.
I mean, I can't disagree.
I mean, no offense. And I don't want to get political. I really don't. I did vote for Joe Biden. I'm open about what I vote for. I consider Donald Trump. I went for Joe Biden, whatever. But I saw something yesterday that they were talking about, about Joe Biden, how he backtracks on his words. And they showed a clip of him standing next to President Bush, Jr., which one? George W. Bush, in the White House. And he looked like he was 80 years old in that. And President Bush was president almost 20 years ago. And now he's our president. You know what I mean? And I'm not saying he shouldn't be our president. I'm not trying to make it about that. But maybe it's time for some younger voices to get that next step in their political careers, so that maybe some of them can make these changes that we need. Because the old heads are the ones that are holding us back right now.
I mean, absolutely. I mean, it's just sad. It really is. I mean, what this country's become, and everyone likes. I'm not making a joke about it, but everyone says it's like the best country to live in, and I don't know how anybody can say that. Yet when maybe per se it's the best country because we don't have it as bad as obviously countries like Ukraine and stuff like that, where they're struggling and dealing with so many other issues than we deal with. But the fact of the matter is, it's just like we're just as messed up. It's all on the inside. I mean,
I got something. You know what? The Ukraine, they're messed up. They got problems going on there. That invasion of Russia and all. But you know what? They have a problem, and instead of it dividing them, it's bringing them together. And it's different. A full-scale war invasion is different than a school shooting. But is it? Wouldn't you think a mass shooting in one of our schools would draw our country closer together? instead of separating us and dividing us more. The Ukraine, literally, foes. People are leaving their homes in other countries to go home to Ukraine to support their brothers and sisters. And the little tiny country of Ukraine is fending off big mother Russia. You would think a country like Russia versus Ukraine, that would have been over in a blink of an eye. But it's drawn Ukraine closer versus separated. And that's the problem. Controversy, tragedy shouldn't be a divisive thing. It should draw people together.
Well, I can give you a perfect example of how that happened. 9/11. I remember when 9/11 happened, I'm not going to lie to you. I remember Republicans and Democrats like kissing each other. Like it was like the country was basically, came together because of that tragedy. Now, listen, that's a large scale tragedy, but I bet you if you added up the amount of people that have died in gun violence since then, it's probably way more on the larger scale. But yet we don't come together for that. We talk about it for a day and we move on. And that's the difference. Like we need people to come together like we did for 9/11, like for a school shooting, because it's that important. If we don't do it now, when are we going to do it? Are we going to just keep continuing to allow this to happen? Are we going to keep having these discussions on a weekly basis? Are we going to keep, giving the whole thoughts and prayer speech and my condolences, but then not doing anything about it? Like when do we draw the line?
Yeah.
When?
I agree with you on it.
Question
You know what? Like I said, it comes down to, me and you, the average Joe Schmo American, making sure we enact change by our voting policies and practices. It's a shame that if just the two of us do it, it's not enough. Everybody's got to do it, but change has to happen somewhere. It does, and I still truly believe that the platform that major celebrities and athletes and people of social standings have, they need to band together. And I'm not just saying 2 or 3 of them, dozens and dozens of them need to band together. And if they do, change will happen. I really, truly believe that. If you've got 10 celebrities with 200 million combined followers, get together and work hard, not just talk it, just not tweet it out, just not Instagram post it or TikTok video it. Actually get together physically and go to Washington and work with these people. They can't influence. If these people go and not threaten physically, like early, we're going to tell everybody not to vote for you. I mean, I know it sounds so simplistic at all, but that's what kind of influence some of these people have. These influencers have. They need to work together to use that influence for something good. They really do. Because me and you talking about it here today, the 300 or 400 people that might watch this episode today, maybe we've convinced some people just to think differently, or at least whatever, about all this situation. But imagine that on a 200-time fold. So it's got to be physical, actual, actionable change. But I don't know. I'm just I don't want to have these conversations anymore. Like you, Jason. Nobody wants to have these conversations anymore. It's got to start somewhere. I don't want you to have to give up your guns, because again, you're a responsible owner of hunting material. But the average 18-year-old kid shouldn't be buying 2 assault rifles on his 18th birthday without a background check. You see some of these mass shooters, you get to their homes and you see cases with enough ammunition to arm an army. Do they need 3 years worth of ammo stocked like that? Maybe that's part of it. That there's so many. Do you need to own 37 weapons? I mean,
I I
some
think
form
that
of
besides that bill, which is an obvious first step, I absolutely believe that there should be a mental health check to buy a gun.
agree.
And whether whoever comes up with it, it could be psychiatrists, it could be a group of psychiatrists that come together and they form this test, but there should be some kind of mental check that's involved in buying a gun, because I think that's just as big of an issue. It's not just the people buying the guns, it's the people that are buying the guns, their mental capacities and where they're at. And you're right. At the end of the day, anybody could have a mental break. You don't have to have bipolar disorder or schizophrenia or, generalized anxiety to have a mental break. Anybody could go off the deep end at any given moment. And I understand that. But I believe that having something like that with, some kind of mental, health capacity check would at least minimize these situations. It's not going to stop them, but it would be a start. Like I said, I'm looking for a start, because the only way you get change is to start change.
Yeah, you got to take one step. You've got to be willing to take that first step.
I mean, I don't have all the answers. I'm not I'm not somebody that studies this and reads this every day.
And I'm even less educated than you, because I don't own guns. Honestly, I've shot a gun 2 times in my life. Twice I've gone to a firing range just to experience it, just so I know how to handle a gun if I was ever put in that situation. That's it. I'm not against gun ownership, but also I feel the need to understand that not everybody has to own a gun. I got my man from Canada checking in here. His brother has a handgun. He has a license. It took him months to get. Had to take tests. Had to show he was able to be responsible. Well, that's what they're doing in Canada now. And that's just for a handgun.
Well, that's the point. They have checks and balances. And I'm not saying that these things don't happen in Canada, but you don't see them hardly
every
ever.
week. I mean, literally, we've had 3 straight weeks here in our country of this stuff.
And that's the problem. But like I said, a lot of it boils down to stubbornness, Phil, because I saw it yesterday. Once again, I saw the people out there saying, I'm not giving up my guns. I have a right to the Constitution. And that's all they care about. They don't care the fact that 15 kids are dead. But if it was one of theirs, I'm pretty sure their tune would change that quick. And that's part of the problem. It's being tone deaf. It's being selfish. It's being blind to the facts. And the facts is that these things continue to get worse. They're not getting better. They're getting worse.
You know what? And I hate to say this. It's not just a mental health check that needs to be done before you own a gun. You might, especially when they're young. I mean, honestly, like yesterday's shooting, the 18-year-old kid that did the shooting, unfortunately, was shot and killed by police. I say that unfortunately because, no offense, that's the easy way out. You kill 18 kids and 19 kids and a couple adults. I don't want you getting shot and killed on the spot. I want you to go to jail. I want you to suffer a little bit. You know what I mean? But the kid that shot up the food store last week, it was up in Buffalo. I mean, I think he would have passed a mental check. But if you do a background check on this guy, you ran through his social media and you saw all the anti-hate and there were some pretty awful things. Basically a manifesto, if you went through his social media, of basically a blueprint spelling out what he posted for years on end, that he probably was going to do this at some point. So that's not just a mental thing. That's just a pure background check in general.
Well, that's part of it. I don't know.
The mental aspect, just getting that check is baby step number 1. And then maybe you can move on to the next step. And the more steps you take, some of the bigger steps necessary, maybe banning assault rifles. Once you get first couple baby steps, then maybe it gets a little easier to convince for the bigger step down the line.
See, once again, it comes down to another area of people being selfish, because you'll get that argument. You'll get the people that'll say, well, that's invasion of privacy. You can't look at somebody's Facebook. Bullshit. If you put something on social media, you made the decision to do it.
Yeah.
You have to live with it. So I don't care what anybody says about it being invasion of privacy. Stop with the invasion of privacy argument when people are dying. Like I said, what's worse? Somebody's privacy being invaded because they are too prideful and too selfish to admit that we have a major issue, or 15 kids being dead in a school. I'm pretty sure it's that.
And I want to address, because we got someone from Canada now. We got someone from England. Checking in, and he says, the whole world knows what the problem is and how to fix it, other than us. The problem is that the people like Jason and I, the average American, knows what needs to be done. It's the problem of who's in charge, and the average American's doing what's necessary to make sure the people in charge that can actually enact the change, making the decision to get the right people in office, making these decisions. And if there's ever, that's an awful, it shouldn't be a phenomenon, because it's not. It's up to us, the average people that know what the change needs to be, making the right decisions to help enact this change. Because the current way that America is, voting for people in office hasn't changed anything for 50 years. So it's yeah, I don't know. It's tough.
Any more comments?
Yeah, I mean, it goes deep. Yeah, there's comments. I'm just, I don't know. I'm just yeah, it goes deeper. I think there's so much more deeper to get into it and all.
Yeah, you could have a week's long show, and we're not going to get the surface.
Show itself is tough for me to even say, because people know me. I've been doing this for 2 years now. Whether it's just start writing, whether it's podcasting, just posting regularly on Twitter. I try to keep my personal beliefs as close to the vest as possible. Sometimes it's just not possible to do it, but I always feel very uncomfortable in these situations. That's why we're doing it, just to it's tough for everybody to have these conversations. So yeah, it's much deeper. It's just much deeper than this would make it even harder for me to have this conversation. This is what we talked about earlier. You missed earlier in the show, Armchair. This is what I'm talking about. I talked about this, not just take a knee. Absolutely. And there were athletes, maybe you remember, Armchair, there was, when the whole Black Lives Matter movement started, there were several NBA players that sat out like a week to go into their communities to help try to enact change for police reform and stuff like that. And that may have helped in their communities. But if we have Jason suggested earlier, a mass walkout of all athletes, of all sports, one day, even just one day, it would at least bring enough attention that maybe more than a few people would start talking about it, that maybe then the politicians would feel the pressure to actually start at least seeing what is necessary and how they can actually agree to change. So that was the whole point of the show today, was, to discuss this, but also, do the athletes, since they have the power, the celebrities, since they have the influence and power, is it up to all of them to help us, the average Americans that want change? Is it up to them to help us get that change? I don't know.
I mean, where else do you start? There's got to be something.
Yeah. Sorry, my level of energy right now is as down as it can be, because it's just sad. It really is. So, and this was therapeutic for me talking about it today.
It's depressing.
It is.
It's absolutely depressing. To the point where I don't want to do anything. Like, I don't even feel like going to work today.
Neither do I.
It's just, like I feel blah blah because every time you get excited about
I like that. Now, this is the kind of comment that makes me feel. It brings a little smile to my face because I've made I've made a few jokes
it's
today.
actually peach. It's the new Monster.
Monster in general. I don't know how you drink that stuff, man.
Well, I gotta stay awake.
Yeah, exactly. We both have long days ahead of us. Today starts 7 or 8 straight days of open to close for me. So
Memorial Day's coming, so we
work
got
open
you.
to close on Memorial Day. So,
But I think like yourself, this show is very therapeutic for me because anytime you talk about a subject that's kind of difficult to talk about, it helps you come out and obviously talking about it. It's not making me feel great, but it does make you feel a little better, at least getting your feelings out. And as you said, we are the only morning show that decided to talk about this, which is crazy because, like I said, I think everybody should be talking about it. And that's why I think your point about having some type of, large scale thing from the athletes, not saying it necessarily would fix things, but I think it would get more people talking and more attention.
next step.
Exactly. And, I could just see it like large scale walkout. And then, like, CNN News is on, whatever. The news stations would be like focused on it. Right now, it's like all you have is like people on social media. You have both sides. You have the idiots out there tweeting that I'm a gun owner. I'm not giving away my guns. Screw you. It's not the guns. I love that argument. The people that say it's not the guns. Well, then tell me, what is it? There's 15 people dead in a school, but it's not the guns. What is your argument?
Yeah.
I
think we're gonna wrap the show up early here today, a couple minutes early, because I just wanna I don't know. I mean, we're almost over on the show. I can't talk about this anymore. I don't think it's right to move into any sports topics at this point for the last 5 minutes. So I think we're gonna wrap it up. This is great here. We don't move on. We move forward. We want to move forward. We just need everybody to get on board so that change happens, so that we don't have to have these conversations. I wanted to talk about fire Joe Girardi today. I did, but we didn't. We couldn't. Jason wanted to talk about the new dynasty, the Tampa Bay Lightning, possibly about to win their 3rd Stanley Cup in a row. We didn't. We can't, because we got to talk about this. His next episode's talking Royal Holidays playoff no-hitter. That was a great game. That was a great game.
I wish we could be guests on that one.
All right, so we're going to end the show there. No Go Birds, no none of that. I'm just going to take us off the screen for a minute. Let the Texas flag there that I put up in the background there in their honor. Uvalde. Like Steve Kerr said, I'm tired of moment of silence. I am. But we're going to do that. We're going to wrap up the show there. Everybody have a great day. Try to move forward. Try to do something good today, guys. And we're back tomorrow with more Trending in the AM. Everybody have a good day.